There's two arguments that are being made in this video, and I think I can get them done in just the first couple of sections here. So let's take a look at it.
James, one of the points he normally raises is this, that inconsistency is a sign of a failed argument. You're correct? That's what he says.
We look at Isaiah chapter 11, which Dr. Craig Evans brought up, and he's right, it is talking about the Messiah. But what does Isaiah chapter 11 tell us about? Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1 tells us it's from the shoot of Jesse, but verse 2, how does it end? It's talking about the Messiah. Everyone agrees. That's critical here. We don't disagree. It's talking about Mashiach. You know how it ends? It ends with saying, and he will fear the Lord. Fear the Lord? You're just telling me that the Lord fears himself. Does God fear anything? And
now there's... Actually, we're going to do two objections, I just realized. He's going to fear the Lord. Yeah. If you're the God-man, you are not going to fear the Lord? You're going to be an atheist? You're going to break God's law?
He gives his life upon the cross. He's raised to life upon the third day. He ascends into the presence of the Father, and there he represents all those who are united by faith with him. The whole reason, my friends, that I have peace with God this evening, the whole reason that when I woke up this morning, I did not fear the wrath of God, was because I know that I am in Christ. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with what I've accomplished. Anything I try to do, I do out of love for Jesus Christ.
Inconsistency is a sign of a failed argument.
Okay, now, before I play this, do you see what the objections are? Because it took me a second to figure out the second one. The first one was easy, because the rabbi was making the point, Rabbi Singer, was making the point, how can God fear God? So it's the basic, fundamental, well, Jesus was the God-man. As a man, he is going to be godly. He is going to obey the law. He's going to be the perfect man. And in this case, either the Jewish apologist or the Muslim, assuming Unitarianism, assuming the being of God can only be shared by one person, automatically opts for modalism, automatically opts for the idea that he's fearing himself? No, this is the second person who becomes flesh, fearing the first who did not become flesh. That's what the whole doctrine of the Trinity is. Demonstrating you don't understand it is not actually an argument against it. That one was easy, but it took me a second to catch what the second one is. So see if you caught it.
and he will fear the Lord. Fear the Lord? You're just telling me that the Lord fears himself? Does God fear anything?
See, there's the second one, and it took me a little while to figure it out, but they've transported the fear of the Lord, which is the mark of the godly man. That is a person who reverences God, the person who walks in the fear of the Lord, the reverence of God. This is what marks a person who keeps the law, and you know that whole thing. They've transposed that over to my statement that the reason I have peace with God and do not fear his wrath is because of the imputed righteousness of Jesus Christ. Completely different context. Completely different context. I fear the Lord. That's different than saying, I fear the wrath of God against my sins, which have been forgiven in Jesus Christ. That's a completely different issue. I guess it's understandable how very poorly read people or individuals who have a just completely different worldview and don't listen carefully, how they could come up with inconsistent argumentation like this. But what it tells us is very rarely are you going to be talking with people, even with people that do dawah, people that do Muslim apologetics. Very rarely, there are some, but very rarely are you actually dealing with people who have any serious background in reading, anything like that. I mean, that's why Muslims find it so strange. You've actually read al-Bukhari in Muslim and portions of Jamia Tirmidhi and stuff like that. And yeah, that normally is not what the other side does in response. There aren't very many Christians that do that. There aren't very Muslims that do that. And most people who end up doing that kind of stuff end up knowing each other too. But there's a lot of stuff out there on YouTube that partakes of this kind of confusion. And you have to be patient in responding to this kind of stuff. And it can be difficult because it's very easy for you to say, well, hey, look, I've spent the time to accurately represent you. Now you're not doing that back to me. I understand the temptation, but especially when you're dealing with someone who is from another country, the chances of their having had meaningful Christian relationships or even sources of meaningful Christian theology, very, very small. They need to have very patient Christians who will be willing to walk through with them on all this stuff.